Hi,
Hello.
I'm Avery Amundsen, and we're just vibing.
And I'm Tony, and we're taking it down a notch today.
Well, yeah, it's a little rainy here in the Junction,
Hmm?
and
Spring break week.
spring, like it's fall, spring, it's winter. Half the office is on spring break, and so we're just reveling in the mellow vibes right now.
Just enjoy. We got birds chirping.
Oh, I love
Just
this,
take that in.
and
Yeah, they don't care.
we love things that are red.
We do.
And I have a red thing for you today, Tony, that
Okay.
I have a feeling that you're going to have strong feelings about.
Oh boy.
And so I'm going to be real with you right now. If we don't want to do this topic, we don't have to.
Let's do it.
So my red thing is my aura.
Okay. Okay.
And I have my photo of my aura.
Okay.
So have you heard of Kindred Auras before? It's in Des Moines.
I have not.
And what they do, it's like a tent. They put up a black tent. You go and you sit in front of a camera and you put your hands on these two plates, whatever that is. That's I don't know. It's like electromagnetic or whatever. So you put your hands on these plates and you look into the camera and they take your picture. And then it shows up with all this color and it's supposed to read your aura.
Okay.
Do I think it's real? I don't know.
Okay.
But I got my aura red and it is so
It's very
red.
Well, all right. So yes, as you know, I'm not necessarily an aura person.
I know.
But in the spirit of dialogue and understanding,
That's what we're here to do.
I am going to.
But no, I want to hear how you think about it as well. But tell me what you're looking at, because I just gave you
Yes.
my aura photo.
So it looks like, well, it's an Instax Fujifilm. To me, it looks like a Polaroid.
Yep.
The door literally opened. That's the thing. Well, there is a whole very Halloween-y thing going on.
It's so extraterrestrial.
And so on this picture, there is Avery. Were you wearing a red shirt that day?
So that's the thing. Yes, I was wearing a red-orange shirt.
Okay. So around your red shirt is a red background, and then it transitions to a kind of a purple, a blue, and then eventually a black.
Yeah.
So define a little bit in this tradition what aura means.
Yeah, I guess that's a whole conversation right there. Is what is aura? In this instance, it's your energy cloud. Which it's interesting. There's a little blue dot at the center of like my heart, and then it goes out to red, and then but it says red means active, charismatic, courageous, strong-willed, and practical.
Okay.
How does that resonate with you?
So are they, well, that's true. It does. Are they asking you any questions beforehand?
No, you just get in and you
And
look
do
at
the
the
thing.
camera, and I don't know how the plates translate to colors. If it's fun and games, is it your energy, your real energy cloud? The thing I will say, so it's very red. I feel like there's some magenta in here, which means free-spirited, fun-loving, and eccentric. But of course, you can read all of these things and be like, yeah, that feels like me. And then we go into some blue, which is old soul, problem solver, empath, sensitive, and trusting. How all those things go together.
It does feel a little, not to be a full cynic, it does feel a little bit like when you do horoscopes, and you're like, I mean, that's kind of most people.
1,000,000%. That's what I want to talk about and get to.
But I think there is something interesting so I have 3 girls, and we'll do like the personality test or whatever. And then the way they're doing that at school now is like, you're this sort of animal. Like you're whatever. So I think mine was like, I'm a seahorse or whatever. And someone else is like a different animal. And so I think there's something interesting in people that's not unnatural to want to sort of categorize and identify yourself as a thing, whether that's a color or an animal. My daughter will do that stuff all the time. She's like, if I was a dog, what would I be? And I always say Chihuahua, and she hates it because she doesn't want to be a Chihuahua. Or she'll do like, well, if you're a color, what color would we be? And that's what that was kind of, it's kind of the other way, right? Of like, you're taking all those sort of personality attributes and applying them.
And you want to label it somehow.
You want to label it and identify it and put it in sort of this category. You know, but I think even that, right? It's like they couldn't be like Avery Hard Red. They had to be like you're, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah. This was a pop-up at Lua Brewing in it's in Sherman Hill. I love Lua. I live really close to there. And they were having a pop-up where they're like Kindred Spirits is coming, and if you buy climbing kites, you get your
Oh, it was a weed and aura event.
Oh, 100%.
Got it.
And by weed, he means CBD drink.
That's totally legal.
Legalized CBD beverage. And THC.
Hold on, that is THC.
Yeah,
too,
THC and CBD. So they're like, buy climbing kites and then you can get your aura taken for free. So very like they were reaching the right audience there. They knew exactly who they were going for. And so there's a line, you go and you're like, I have my drink, and you get in and they're just like filing people through and they're like, oh, take your photo. And then you go back and like, as it's developing, the woman is like, oh, look, here's some red. That means you are very charismatic. Oh, here's some blue. And there you go. Go back to your seat. And it's like, oh, okay.
It's a decent business plan.
100%. I wanted to like get a full reading, but I think you have to pay for those. And also like, I don't know. I'd just be curious to what she says. But at the same time, so my friend Allison was right behind me and her photo was different than mine because I was very curious to see like, does this just bloom show up for everybody? Right. It's very much like, this is the color of my shirt. And so is it just the color of my shirt that the camera picked up on?
Because you made that choice and it represents.
Right. Well, I mean, like when I wear that shirt, people tell me it's my color. It's a beautiful burnt red orange, everyone. Does that mean like I'm an autumn? I don't know. And so is it my color because that's my aura? Or is it my aura because that's my color? You know, chicken before the egg. Right. Oh, Laura, our producer, our recorder behind the scenes just showed me another photo. So like the photo Laura showed us is someone else who just has like so much different color, where mine is very much like it's red and then it goes into blue, maybe a little pink there. Where my friend Allison, hers was also red. It had some more colors in there. And then she also had like a white spot kind of by her shoulder. And this is where like we get really trippy. But her mother passed away in 2020. And I'm like, Allison, that's your mom. 100% that's your mama. Being your guardian angel. And regardless of how rooted that is in approvable science, I think that's just a good tool. A coping mechanism, a way to keep your mom close to you, just like a comfort.
Couple thoughts.
Yeah.
So first thought, Lori, so she's a big fish person.
Yeah.
Which I am not.
I mean, to each their own, we love.
I'm trying to be less of a grumpy old Catholic dad guy. So I'm like, so she's going to go say Trey Anastasia, who's the lead singer of Fish in Kansas City tonight.
Yes.
Okay. And I was like, I'm going to try and listen to Trey literally right before this.
Oh.
And I kind of feel like that, like I do about this. Like this,
I'm into it.
It's just a little
totally
out there for me.
Totally.
But there was something that you brought up that's interesting. So I was listening to this podcast. It was a faith-based podcast, but it was someone that had lost their sister, and she had gotten into all of the grieving traditions. Some of them faith-based, some of them not. And there's an Irish tradition called Kettering or something, and it's the most Irish-sounding thing ever. So they get in a room and they wait, and there's like Kettering leaders. I'm probably saying the word wrong, and essentially it's just you bawl your eyes out and scream with your family for like a couple hours.
Obsessed.
And then she was talking.
My Nordic family could never.
No, yeah. I was like, I'm sweating right now, that amount of emotion with other people in my family. Can you fathom it? But what was interesting is she was talking about there's something in loss that people want something tangible to put with like that, right? So that idea of like a gravestone or a memento that was left behind or an heirloom that's sort of passed down or something, is there a place where that's just superstition? To your point, there's like comfort in.
Yeah, or it's a way to keep them close.
Tangible, right?
Yeah.
Because you're in that place of like they're gone, right? We just spent some insane amount of money for the ashes of our dog.
Right.
The dog's gone, but there was something like in that moment, you're like, there's something here that is still tangible that they, sort of proves their existence. So it is interesting. I think people just take that maybe in different paths or different places, but
it was so interesting to see, and also interesting to see how ours were similar, because another story about Allison, we have always been like weird soul twins.
Okay.
And our parents grew up 10 miles from each other, knew a bunch of the same people, but didn't meet until we went to college and we were on the same floor. And our moms were friends. And so that's how we got introduced, as her mom ran into my mom and was like, you guys need to be friends. And I saw her in her horse girl getup leaving orientation so that she could go to the Iowa State Fair with her boyfriend. I'm like, yeah, we're not going to be friends.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting though. But you guys like get each other,
Oh no,
even
we
though
get
your
each
beliefs.
other.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, we couldn't be more opposite when we met. And Allison was born a twin, and she was born 6 months before I was born. And her twin's name was Avery Lynn. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I didn't know this, and she didn't know my middle name was Lynn, but it was like after we had been friends
Hold on,
for
but she lost her.
So her twin
Wow.
died. Like they were both premature, and like I think she could have fit into the palm of her dad's hand or something like that. And so like they were both alive for a little bit, but her twin sister didn't make it. And so then it's like we get together later in life, and we're just these friends who are kind of against the odds, like always there for each other and always come back together. And it feels very sistery now at this point. And of course, like we call each other that. We've been reinforcing that narrative. That's been something that like we just find as a fun fact. But isn't that wild?
How does her mom feel about that?
Oh, her mom loved it.
Yeah.
Karen Parman. We love her. She was a crazy kook. So yeah, she was definitely like, you found her. And not like full reincarnation, obviously, but there's a sentiment of
Something different there.
yeah, and you're not alone.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is, what a wild, the name thing is,
The name thing is wild, and the fact that we grew up so closely to each other, but did
Yeah.
not meet until we were 18.
all right. So auras and
Mhm.
energies.
Auras,
it's-
energy.
So, okay, question with that. So
Yes.
if someone says, because there is an Avery energy,
Mhm,
right, that you feel,
mhm.
certainly, if you define that as an aura, I guess I'm like, what's the usefulness of an aura? I guess is, do you know what I mean?
Right.
If I was like, yeah, Avery's like very boisterous and full of energy and
Mhm.
sparkle and positive, as opposed to like, she's a red aura.
Right.
What's the like marketing? What is the action that I am supposed to take differently with?
Sure. I think it's the power of labels, right? I think that's why it's another like self-exploration tool, or yeah, like a thought exercise almost
Got
of
it.
how does this relate to me? Do I resonate with this? Like taking, like you said, personality tests. I know I've taken a bunch, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Until I took the Enneagram. Have you taken the Enneagram or heard about the Enneagram? I was always like, yeah, whatever. Took an Enneagram. That felt real. I was like, oh, I feel seen. And then I read about Enneagrams with wings. So it's like, I'm a 3-wing 4, because you can always like, you're rooted in one of the 9 personalities. You can also lean to the number on your left or lean to the number on your right. And when I looked up 3-wing 4, I had never felt more seen in my life. It was wild. And my therapist is a fan of Enneagrams.
Yeah.
So, and I think those are more rooted in some kind of whatever.
I think it gives you
Science.
quasi
But
science.
it's a tool to have a self-exploration and reflection.
I think
feel.
those are really, what I like about those is they're a great starting point, both for where like, yep, this hits it.
Mhm.
So we did one, and Lori she's like commander,
Oh, yeah.
boss person,
Yes.
corporate leader thing. Like, and so just getting to that, and then you kind of, you're like, oh, that's on its face sounds really bad, but she's like, legacy is very important. And the mark I leave behind is very important. And so I think it was cool to see maybe moments of altruism and things that can sort of be labeled as like, oh, that's just you're an overpowering monster. It's
Right.
like, no, well, there's
Everything's
reasons for that.
layered. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so yeah, they have been helpful, I think.
Can I tell you another story about my quote unquote aura?
Okay.
I went with my cousins and my sister. We go on trips.
Yes.
And we love to have a bougie time. And so we went to this place called
the Sister Wives.
The Sister Wives. Yes. We went to this place called the Pagosa Springs Spa. And he's giggling. And it is in like very southern Colorado. And it is like natural hot springs. And so basically all you do is it's cold out. And then we go sit in these warm natural springs that are like have minerals and supposed to, just be super relaxing. Whatever.
right.
We're just like, we just get to be in hot tubs all day pretty much. As part of that, they have a spa that's attached to like the whole hot springs area.
Okay.
And I was like, I want a massage. It was the best, weirdest massage of my life. One, I think because your muscles are already so relaxed because you've just been laying in a tub for hours. Tony's like, this could not be less interesting of a vacation that you would want to take. It's so great.
Learning new things.
Learning new things.
Yes.
So I'm waiting to get called into like the room that I'm going to be in. And this lady comes out and she just looks at me and she was like, Avery? I'm like, yep, that's me. And she just takes a beat and goes, okay. And then I'm like, okay. And so we get back into the room and she's like asking me to get on her table. And she just starts by kind of like holding her hands over my body, which that's never happened to me before. Not touching me, but kind of holding her hands over. She goes, she's like, what's your family lineage? I feel this water energy all over you. Then she's asking me questions. I'm like, oh, my family is very Norwegian. She's like, oh, that is it. I can always tell when there's a Viking on my table. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, Tony. And it gets so weird. And
it gets weird.
This is the start. And she's like, I can always tell when there's a Viking on my table. And she's just like feeling the energy in my body. And like, so then she starts the massage. And as she wants me to move like my limbs around, she's like, here, can you move this leg? As she taps my arm. And I was like, so I move my leg and she's like, no, this leg. And like, so I move my arm. Oh, she was asking me about my history and if I had any like prior injuries. And I was like, no, nothing crazy. She's like, not even as a pup.
She's naming you an animal now?
Yeah, 100%. And I was like, nope, not even then. Just kind of like going along with it. And eventually I asked her, I'm like, so what's up with all these, animal terms? She's like, well, I just think that the medical field can get too prescriptive, or she's like, we're all just animals. And so I just like to think of us that way. So I say everyone, like she was calling my hands paws, all my limbs were legs, bizarro. And then she's like, doing my massage. And she's like, see how this is cobblestones on this side because you're so stressed. This side is like butter. She was like worried about me having to move. She's like, I wish you would see me after you moved because your body's going to be so jacked up. I've just gotten you in this perfect state. Oh, and then she was like, it was crazy. The best massage ever. But there was like some emotional release part of it. She was like releasing tension in one thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels crazy. She asked consent, but she was like, can I put my fingers in your mouth? And
I would walk out.
I know. Here's the thing. I'm always down for the story.
I know.
In a bad way.
She put her fingers in your mouth hole.
Yeah, she did. And like, she was like squeezing the inside of my cheek. And I was
Shut
like,
up.
and I'm like opening and closing my jaw as she's massaging my like jaw joint from the inside and outside. It was
That is a ride.
the craziest massage. Yeah, now I just want to tell you all my weird travel stories, but we've got a whole pod
We do have a whole one.
to get into it.
There's also the rings that cost a lot of money.
Oh, yes, those Aura rings. I want one,
Yes.
though. I want one.
Do you want one?
Yes.
I don't want to be. Okay, this is good.
Let's go.
I think it's this whole, in my opinion, unnecessary want or desire that somehow we need to measure everything.
Mm-hmm.
And everything needs to be put in this clean category or box. And now I'm going to eat this and drink this and be this color and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just,
Like,
it's
let me
not
be.
healthy. It's
Let me
not
be.
good for us. You just gotta, it's the same thing with like weighing yourself, right? Life's going to make you gain weight and lose weight and whatever. And if you're living by the scale,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a healthy way to live. If you just break from that and listen to your body and
Well, here's.
okay. So
I
maybe
was like, well, here's my
Yeah.
counter argument to that, because I
Okay.
agree. One, living by the scale, boo, 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 boo.
we all agree.
We
High
all
five.
High five.
Okay.
My goal is body neutrality, not even body positivity, but body neutrality, which we can get into
Educate
that
me?
later.
No.
Yeah. So it's the least interesting thing about me is my body. And I want to be able to focus my energy on other stuff because your body's always going to change. Always. And should I have a healthy body? Yes, but that is not who I am. That is not where my worth is. And that's not where I want to spend my energy. Because especially as women, that can suck up a lot of your energy. And a little feminist moment here. The government likes to keep you hungry. Okay.
Wasn't expecting that turn. I was really with you, and then I lost you on the last bit. But
They wanna
okay,
keep you hungry so you don't focus
Okay.
on what's important.
Okay.
Like women's rights. Yes.
Body
so
neutrality
body
is
neutrality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because body positivity is great, but that still implies that you're
energy.
putting energy and focus and all of this thing about your body. And it's just, I want to move beyond that.
Okay.
My body is the least interesting thing about me.
I think I'm kind of in between. Maybe
Yeah.
I think it's one of many elements,
Totally.
right? So it deserves attention, but not complete focus, right?
Mhm.
So those of us with obsessive brains can over hyper focus, and it's putting it in right relationship with
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit stuff, and going,
Yeah.
it's an element of you. But I think the
Mhm.
earlier point, especially right, I'm 44. Things just started breaking, right? And like I got up and it sounded like packing supplies this morning when I got out of bed. It was just
Big bop, boom, 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 bop, bow.
and there is a transition that has to happen of I can still run or play hockey or do whatever. But if your identity is that thing that's body dependent,
Mm-hmm.
then you see a lot of folks like the ego crash
Mm-hmm.
happens hard, right? Because it's like, well, I'm not in whatever that can be.
I'm not the quarterback of the high school team anymore.
That can be female or male, right?
100%.
If you looked a certain way when you're in your 20s and you look different in your 40s, if your identity is your appearance,
Mm-hmm.
no, I think it's healthy to be like, oh well, that's a change. But I think,
But then, like, what does that do to you?
As
Your
an
psyche?
identity,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I want to get back to the aura ring
Yes,
part of
okay,
it.
aura ring.
Because I agree. Scales, boo, 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 boo. But on the other end,
Okay.
so one of the things that I'm working on in therapy is being able to listen to my body. So for someone like me, who I completely, like, I have had years of ignoring what my body wants and needs for various reasons.
Okay.
And so I have a huge problem identifying, like, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I happy? Am I stressed? Like, it is all just tamp it down. And so the idea of having a
Okay.
ring that can tell me, like, babe, you're stressed. Like, it's a prompt for me to, like, check in with myself
Interesting.
and be like, okay, well, what does that feel like in my body? And it's like an objective, third party-ish outward source telling me to check in with my body, because I'm not good at checking in with my body, period.
That's very interesting.
I know, right? So that's my motivation. But I can totally get where it's like you can hyper tune yourself to be a machine where you're like, my readiness score is not above
Like
80.
micronutrient and
Right,
all this.
right.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely fall down that hole. But for someone like me, I'm like, that is a tool for me to maybe better learn about what I need.
Because so in that sort of thing is the idea that like hunger is presenting itself as like aggression or
Mhm.
whatever, and it's
Mhm.
learning to sort of separate. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, see, I learned things today.
Yeah. That's the mission.
Um,
The mission, the vision, the purpose, the price.
I was gonna say the values, innovation. No, okay. Well, I feel like I've been exposed, and the end part was the most interesting to me as far as. Okay, we're like 12 tangents over, but
I'm obsessed. I
what a-
love it.
what a wild journey we have taken today.
Let's close with this.
'Kay.
If you were to predict what your aura might look like, Tony, what color do you think you would be?
I'll shift it slightly
Yeah.
because my daughter makes me be, well, if you're a color, what color would you
Okay.
be?
Yep.
Grizzly brown is the color,
Mm.
which my middle daughter hates brown, but also like I feel a connection. This sounds hippie and it's not.
Get into it. Here we go.
But I do feel a connection to like wood, like as if in a room where things are painted and whatever, sort of the unvarnished wood thing
Mhm.
is like that's sort of my role. Okay, let's go full weird.
Yes.
Catholic guy thing. So I went to confession once. Okay, came out and you do your prayers in the church. So usually in a Catholic church, you'll have the crucifix in the middle, and then Mary on the left and Joseph on the right.
Okay.
So almost always you're going to look at the crucifix first, as you should, and then people are sort of learning from Mary, who's generally pointing towards is always pointing toward Jesus, right? But Joseph is usually ignored, generally, right? It's like the kind of quiet one. There's usually not as much. And there was sort of this pull towards your job is to be like that guy. Mostly not up front or like whatever, but just a quiet, sort of steady
supporting character
presence. That's not aura necessarily, but maybe connected to sort of color or texture.
Could be.
I think we maybe all connect in some way to specifically creative people. You're always looking for color or texture to sort of exemplify sort of an idea or an experience. Branding, right? That's all branding is, right? The reason that John Deere is green is because the fields are green and they want to be fresh and they want to be sort of always coming into the new, right? So I don't know. I think you can learn from that stuff.
Tea.
Okay, a lot of sharing. I'm sweating. Here we go.
And that's what we got today. Thank you so much for listening to Things That Are Red. This has been a Red Dot Labs production. For more episodes and information, check out red.ad.com and be sure to follow Red Dot Branding and Marketing on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and or YouTube.
Tweet.
Thanks, y'all.